wanted to go over a couple of things before we get started. Does everybody have a seat? Are there any able-bodied people that, no, okay, everybody's fine. Before we get started tonight, we've been asked by Dr. Payne to deliver a thoughtful prayer for a dear friend of all of ours.
Thank you. So, I would like to have a moment of, as I said I wouldn't do this. I would like to have a moment of silence for a dear friend of ours, probably one of the fiercest advocates for this community, McIntosh, as its entirety, an advocate for the children, an advocate for our veterans, and an advocate and a native of the love of this community. We lost Ginger Gordon. So even though she's not here anymore, but she is going to be an angel over this community and bringing us together. Her heart was as good as gold. So she is now our angel from McIntosh. I'd like a moment of silence for Jennifer. Thank you. May we all come together.
Thank you. And thank you all, seriously, for what it's about. I'm so thrilled to have a full house. I think, just to clarify, this is a work session, which occurs once a month. The work session is where we discuss openly with the community any issue that has come before the board. And tonight we have two variance requests. After input from the community and presentation by the applicants, tomorrow night we will render our decision from the Planning and Zoning Board, affirmative or negative, and that decision will go to City Council. We're not the arbiter of the decision, so each and every one of you I encourage, with your interest, to participate in City Council meetings as well. As a point of order, I do want to, and we've got many people who are going to speak tonight, and they've signed in. As you speak, keep in mind that this is pertinent to the two variances which face us today and nothing else. I mean, you know, so stay focused on the variance. And we've got our first applicant that's coming up is Zach Rath. Is Zach here?
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay.
Do either one of y'all want to speak?
Okay.
Sure. No, excuse me, Karen.
Yeah, the variance request for Zach Rath is for a side setback on Trumbull, at the corner of Trumbull and Franklin, the southeast corner. As you're aware, Trumbull is 100-foot right-of-way, and the property they want to build on, the house will face Franklin Street, and the normal side setback is 25 feet on a corner lot. However, with a 100-foot right-of-way, the property line is actually already 44 feet off of Trumbull, and to add another 25 makes the lot fairly unbuildable. It would reduce the size of the building to a 25-foot width, and by allowing a 10-foot setback, that, as we've done in many other instances when we have the 100-foot right-of-way, it would still put the house 54 feet off of the road. So it's quite a sizable setback. The request is in front of you in the packet, and also included, you'll see a yellow tab that shows where the request has gone to the Historical Preservation Committee, and they've already signed off on it as being acceptable. And Zach, did you want to add anything to that?
I think you covered it.
So that's the first variance request.
Is there any discussion?
Is there anyone here that wants to speak on the variance request submitted by Zach and Carrie Rath?
I would like to ask a question.
Sure. Of us or of the?
This is all new to me, you know. This is my first time, and I'm just concerned about why all these things are taking place. Like, he's already cleaned off the property, he's already ready to do whatever he's going to do there.
I'm going to stop you right there. We're not there just yet. We're talking about Mr. and Mrs. Rath's variance request.
You're talking about Trumbull and Franklin?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
I apologize.
I can answer that.
Oh, sure.
Okay, the property that they own, they're allowed to clear. Okay?
Okay.
They have not started any structures.
Right.
Okay? They had to have a survey done. They bought the property. That required a survey. That's why the markers are out there. And then they have a right, just like any other landowner, to clear their property. So that's as far as they've gone at the moment. Okay? And the next step would be to request a variance so that they can center their house on their lot, and then apply for a building permit after that. So that's the sequence of events.
Right, okay. So now, you're saying that the entrance is going to be on Trumbull, or is it going to be on Franklin?
Right.
Well, that's yet to be determined, because you don't get a site plan which delineates those things you're talking about. Like, are they going to put a driveway on Trumbull, or are they going to put a driveway on Franklin, until you get to the building permit process. Right now, all they're asking is, can they sit their house on the lot where they're asking to sit it, which is 54 feet off of Trumbull.
Oh, off of Trumbull.
Right. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Elizabeth Jones, and I've been here all my life, family, and we have property. What is that going to do about our property taxes? Because we've got property with nothing on it. We are paying a lot of taxes on it, city and county taxes. How is that going to affect our taxes? That's what I want to know. For people who have property in that area.
Ma'am, this board can't answer that. That's up to the tax assessor, to the Board of Tax Assessment. This board doesn't have anything to do with that.
It won't increase your tax base, it will add to the tax base. Revenue to the city.
But I'm talking about people who have to pay for it. You have to pay for it.
Yeah, that's outside of the purview of this board. It's a really good question. Unfortunately, we don't handle any of the tax issues for the city. Like Kieran said, I would address that with the.
Can I say something? Can I say something, please? I think what you're asking about, maybe simple terms, they will be coming in and adding a structure or two structures and creating value, adding value to that corner to that property, and adding value to the neighborhood and the city at large. So they will be paying their taxes, the taxes on that property.
So you're saying it doesn't affect other people?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't affect, I'm saying they will be paid.
I understand that.
Yeah, I'm getting to your point.
Yes.
So they will be, also, that will raise the tax base by whatever the value of their structure is. So how it will affect the other houses, that would have to be interpreted by the tax commissioners and those folks. And I don't know if you just add value, add a structure that adds value to the community. I'm not sure if that would raise or lower, say, a millage rate, which is maybe what you're asking about. But I don't know any more than that. I can't say anything.
Another question I would like to ask, you said that the setback has already been approved. What is it, 50 feet or something?
No, ma'am. No, the request is to change the setback from 25 feet to 10 feet because of the exceptional width of Trumbull. Trumbull's 100 feet wide. Okay, so the property line doesn't even start for 44 feet off of Trumbull. So they're asking that the setback be brought to 10 feet from the required 25 feet. So it'll be 54 feet. The structure would be 54 feet off of Trumbull.
Kieran, can I ask a quick question? The home that is located directly behind the property on Trumbull, it's closer to the road than,
Yes, it is.
it's a lot closer.
Yeah, it's a lot closer. In fact, it's probably almost on the easement.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was done before.
Long
I
time
mean,
ago.
it's a long.
Long time ago.
And it's also, you know, kind of in a historical area. It's right beside one of the squares, Columbus Square. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah.
And that's why it went to the Historical Preservation Committee first.
I'm Eunice Moore, and I have a concern that with the variance being set back, Columbus Square is a community park used for many events from time to time. And what effect would that affect on Franklin Street if you move in the variance? And then on the other corner right in front of it, if they decide to do something to their home there, it would be conflict to me when we start setting setbacks on each corner. And those are corners that the setbacks are being set back on.
Well, this
And
is,
for the right of way for pedestrians.
yes, ma'am, this one is on Trumbull though. The whole setback we're talking about is on Trumbull Street.
I understand that.
Yes, ma'am, and so that's a block away from the square, which is 100 feet, and they're just asking to, basically, they're not getting, it's still their property line, but instead of them having to build a home that's only 25 feet, this is actually going to make it so they can actually build a home that someone could live into. That's what they're asking for. It's not going anywhere into anyone's, it's not going into the public's land at all. It's just so they can center their home and build a slightly larger structure than 25 foot wide, which most homes are wider than 25
So
feet.
this would not affect the roadway?
No, ma'am. This is still on their private property. See, whenever you have a setback, it's from the private property line to how far it is from their private property line to the side of their home. This is just allowing them to build their home closer to their property line, but still giving us plenty of room, you know. It doesn't affect the right of way at all.
I understand that part. I just want to know what effect that it would have on Franklin Street going to the park.
Okay, ma'am, on Franklin Street, it has no impact because they're not asking for anything on Franklin Street. So there's still the 25-foot setback on Franklin Street from the property line. So there's absolutely no change on Franklin, only on Trumbull.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, the next applicant is Art Lucas.
Before we move to that, I thank y'all a lot for the application, the way y'all filled it out. It's very informative. All the information's there, and there's no gray areas, so thank y'all on that part.
Yeah, thank you.
It makes our job a lot easier when y'all do that.
Just want to do it the right way.
Okay, on the second variance, I'd like to kind of set the stage on this a little bit. So everybody, all understand what we're talking about. In your packet there, you have a variance request from Oaks on the River. The first document is a copy of what the city ordinance states, which is new development parcels adjacent to the riverfront shall provide continuous public access along the riverfront. Such public access shall have a minimum width of 10 feet, shall have unobstructed views of the river for 75% of the length of the riverfront, and shall connect with or provide for future connection with adjacent parcels, riverfront access. So that's the paragraph from the city ordinance. You'll also have the actual request from Lucas Properties, and I've included a map for each of you to show what we're talking about for the CHT. These requirements, this requirement comes about because it is in what's called the CHT HD district, Cultural Heritage Tourism Historic District. And so this requirement applies only to that district. And that district, as far as the riverfront is concerned, basically runs from Skippers to Marine Rail number 5. That whole length. That's what we're talking about.
That's what the red line is, right?
That's what the red line is on that map. And to try and make it a little easier for what exactly we're talking about, this is not to scale of any sort, of any kind. Okay? This is, they gave Kieran a crayon and he played with it. Okay, we have Fort King George, we have the new restaurant that's going in, we have the proposed hotel, and we have the condominiums. Franklin Street, which empties into rail number 5. At the bandstand, I believe that cut originally was rail number 1. I haven't been able to prove that yet, but one of these days I'm going to get to prove that. Okay? We have the bridge. We have 2 easements. Okay? This easement, the stairs to the west and the stairs to the east of the restaurant are easements that must remain open going down to the riverfront, which is owned by the IDA, not by the city. Okay? We go to the bandbox. So the variance we're going to be talking about is right along here, 10 foot wide, in front of the property that would belong to the hotel. Okay, so everybody's clear about that. That requirement is this green line here, 10 foot wide, along the riverfront. So we're not talking about this easement, it has to stay open. We're not talking about this easement, it has to stay open. The IDA owns the park. It's open to the public. So we're talking about this 10 foot along the riverfront right there. Okay.
When you said about ownership of the hotel, you mean about ownership
Yeah.
of both properties?
Well, the properties
hotel
are
and the condo.
the properties are actually divided.
Right.
Okay. This property here belongs to the restaurant. This property here belongs to the condos.
Okay.
The proposed hotel owns all of this and down to the marine rail. That's the way it was broken up in the plat. Okay, so this 10-foot wide walkway would all be on the property that was to go to the proposed hotel. Okay. Everybody?
How much has been developed at this point? Where's the development, the existing development?
Hold on 1 second, sir. We have people that have signed up to speak. Are you on the list?
So I'm not speaking, I'm just asking a question.
Okay, go ahead, ask your question.
Okay. Right now, what's developed? All but one
No, I'm
lot?
talking about that walkway,
There is no, okay, there is no physical requirement for the walkway. There is a requirement that that be public access. Nobody says that the developer has to build a concrete walkway, that he has to build a boardwalk, that he has to lay in gravel, that he has to do anything.
I'm talking about what's currently there that has been developed.
You're talking about the IDA?
Yes.
The IDA just goes down to rail number 1,
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
okay? So that's open to the public right now.
It's the existing boardwalk which terminates at the pavilion, which is the bandstand that they use for festivals and such.
Sir?
I'm on that list, but
Can we?
Well, we have-
does that mean the
We have
access
an
road
order.
Yeah.
to the bandstand is gone?
Here,
Yes.
we're gonna
All the,
pause on that, please, thank you. This is Mr. Lucas's variance request. We're gonna give him an opportunity to, he has a presentation to present his variance request in addition to what has already been provided to the city from Mr. Lucas and to this board. So, Mr. Lucas, if you would, and then afterwards, we'll open.
Okay, I'm going to start from Mr. Lucas.
Thank you.
I'm Dawn Lynn, I'm the president and CEO of the McIntosh County Industrial Development Authority. What I'm giving you guys right now will give just a little overlay. There's a lot of confusion, I think, and Karen brought up a good point.
Do you need this?
Yeah, it might be a little, well, mine's not quite as large as his. But what I've done is I've done an overlay. Y'all have a copy of it, so pardon my back, but I know there's a lot of interest out here. So the Industrial Development Authority got involved with this project by selling Mr. Lucas the upper bluff portion of the waterfront park. The waterfront park, from the sidewalk to the docks, is still retained for public access. Mr. Lucas has granted, as Kieran showed over there, he's granted 2 easements to the community and to the IDA to continue to have, well, probably better if y'all look at it this way. You've got your sidewalk coming from Fort King George down to the center of the park, which is our beautiful wide, 22-foot wide sidewalk. That Mr. Lucas has granted an easement, and we will be able to always access the park through that. And our concrete walkway, which goes from Fort King George down the side of the bridge. So we also have 550 feet of boardwalk that is maintained by the Industrial Development Authority along the riverfront. It runs from the rail, the old rail site, or this
Rail number
allegedly rail number
Allegedly, well, rail number 1.
Allegedly, from rail number 1 under the bridge for 550 feet. That is not going to be any way impacted by the public. The public still has complete access to that. The stage is there for the community. It's there for us to hold functions in, and that is not going away. None of that is impacted at all by this present project. We also have our docks. People come, they fish off our docks. We have overnight accommodations for folks as well as long-term rentals if needed. So I wanted to explain to you that currently the public has 550 feet of boardwalk access that's lit. It's 24/7. There's no restriction to the time of day, and it's open for you. So I know there's a lot of confusion. I've read it a little bit on social media that we're giving this away. We have not. This is retained and will always be part of the community. The reason we got into this project with Mr. Lucas is because it is in a historic transition or historic tourism district. And this project allowed for the old jelly ball plant to be relocated into a blighted area, allowing them potential for expansion. And this is important because Mr. Lucas's project falls in line with what the community has identified as growing tourism. Tourism is the #3 industry in the state of Georgia. It has brought in 111 million people to Georgia last year, and it is a $36.9 billion industry. Do we see Mr. Lucas's project as being prosperous for the community? Yes, we do, for all of us. How many people would like their taxes to go down? The amount of revenue that can be generated through this project will help all of us. It will help us to improve our infrastructure, our roads and our schools. The hotel motel tax alone is going to bring close to $200,000 a year into our community to use to advertise, because what is it we all say about our community? Tourism. It's beautiful and we want to share that. So the IDA did not give away what we think is the most breathtaking part of our downtown. We gave away the jelly ball plant. We helped them to relocate by allowing the upper bluff to be developed. So if y'all have any questions about public access. please, I don't usually read social media, but call the office and we'll help you identify that this is available for all of us to use. So with that being said, I'm going to let Mr. Lucas talk about the fact that he's granted 2 easements to the community, and he hopefully will be able to show you that with the addition of his property in the hotel. It's a funny looking shaped site, and our riverfront comes into it. So he's got some restrictions to work with, and he's going to tell you more about why it's important that he be able to use all of his land.
Thank you, Dawn. Board members and fellow citizens, they've already covered some of my presentation, so I'll need to make it quicker. What I want to do is give you a quick update of our project, where we are, and then why we need this variance so we can go ahead and build a hotel. The hotel is the crown jewel of the project. So let me do you a quick run through so you can see this. We're in phase 1 right now, and that's a picture of the condominiums. The condos are almost done. We're in the final kind of cleanup phase. They should be completed in about 2 weeks. Is Wayne around? Right. Oh, there he is in the back of the room, okay. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to walk through them. If you get down in that basement, it's built like a fortress. It would be the safest place in a hurricane in McIntosh County. It'd probably take a 300-mile-an-hour wind. So it's steel and concrete, and it would be the place to go. So this is almost done, phase 1. The restaurant is under construction. You probably see that. It's on the corner where the bridge is. And we have a restaurant owner-operator, Clay Hutchison, in the back of the room. We've got the foundation laid. We're now coming up with framing. They tell me it's going to be about 90 days and we'll have a restaurant there. So we're making good progress. Feel good about it. It's going to be kind of a low-country cuisine, southern cuisine, a lot of seafood. And it's going to have a second floor, have a rooftop bar. I think it'll be one of the outstanding places in Darien. So we're real excited about it. We think it'll be a nice addition to the community. We're working on a dock being permitted. There's an old dock down there now that's kind of dangerous. It's way past its prime, but we can't remove it until we get a new dock approved. And we have the city council approved it. So now we're working with the DNR, Corps of Engineers. We've got a great consultant in Savannah named Dan Busey, who's working with them. Dan says it takes weeks or sometimes months to get the approval process done. DNR is pretty tough, but we think ultimately we'll get it approved, and hopefully within a reasonable period of time. And then we'll have a new dock. We'll take out the old dock, we'll put in the new dock, and then it'll be a very nice looking structure. Now this is phase 2. Phase 2 is a hotel. We haven't finished the total design of the hotel. We're probably 90% there. This could change slightly, so I almost need to show you this. But it's going to be 3 stories above ground. It has a basement. It's going to be about a 50-room to 52 or 3-room hotel. Originally, we were going to do one in the 30 to 40 rooms. I had a consultant who came in from Boston right before Christmas. Spent 3 days with him. This guy has done 200 hotels around the world. And he said to me, he said, you can't make a hotel that small work based on what you want to do. You've got to be at least 50 plus rooms. So we're right at 49 now, I think, in the number. We need to get 2 or 3 more rooms in there, but I think we can do it. But this will be a centerpiece for this, what we're doing. And it's going to be a destination hotel, which means we're going to be trying to bring people in. You know, there are a lot of folks out there that love to go bird watching. And McIntosh County is one of the great bird watching places in the world. Biking is becoming a big thing. We've got a guy that we've done some business with on St. Simon's who will be our biking guy who's here. We will be bringing in all kinds of groups. Plus, we'll advertise on the Intercoastal Waterway. We hope to get some of that traffic in. We'll look at the mid-Georgia markets and the Atlanta markets, et cetera, to bring people in. Then you got I-95, and you got 60,000 cars going on I-95 every day. So it's going to take time to build up this hotel, but I'm a long-term guy. Every business I've ever had, I've kind of built one brick at a time. But I've had successful businesses in my life, and I'm excited about the concept of this hotel. I spent last week a day and a half with a guy who could be my general manager, who's down in St. Martin's, down in the Caribbean. He's run some of the top boutique hotels in the country or in the world, and he's almost my age. So this would be his last hurrah, but he wants to work another 10 years. And we're in the process of checking him out, but if he checks out and we get to build this hotel, I think I found my general manager. So I'm feeling good about that. But one thing I'll point out with this hotel was in the final design, but it's, once we get the plans finalized, it'll take 2 to 3 months, according to our architect, to get the plans finally designed. So if we get this thing approved, we'll start construction within 4 to 6 months. It's about a 1-year project, maybe a year and a month or two. But that's going to be a centerpiece for Darien. It really is going to be a great centerpiece for Darien. I'm excited about it, and I think it has great potential, particularly in tourism. Tourism is, as Dawn pointed out, is a clean industry. Tourists spend lots of money. It goes right into this economy here. It creates a lot of jobs. This hotel, by the way, for every hotel room you have in a 50-plus room hotel, you create 1.5 jobs. So we're going to have somewhere between 50 and 75 jobs, direct jobs with this hotel. And these are citizens in McIntosh County, are the people who are going to benefit from that. And then there are vendors who will be using for a variety of activities. They will be hiring people, so you get an indirect spin-off on that too. Variance request. We need a variance on the easement through the hotel and condo properties. We just don't have the room, and we'll show you a design in a minute. We're very limited. You can't go to build out this hotel. We can't go east. We can't go west. On the west side, we've got the ruins, and you can't go in the ruins. On the east side, we've got the condo and the parking. If you go north, you're going into the street, Fort King George, so you got a little room to come down to the road. So we're very limited in the way that whole thing lays out about how many things we can do. So to put a 10-foot easement through that property, I think we really killed this deal. And I don't want to do that. I mean, but at my age, you can still live a happy life. But I'm invested in this. But I'm interested in if I can make it work. And I'm a businessman. And you have to make sure that you can make things work. Easement will negatively affect hotel operations. We just won't have the room. And the kinds of things we want to do, and then you have security and liability issues. But we want to have water sports, kayaking, paddleboard, fishing. We want to have a little room for special events where you can do family reunions, weddings, company events, etc. And then do some lawn sports, croquet, etc. So we have limited room, and if you put a strip through there, we just don't have the room to do that. This kind of shows you where's Wesley? Wesley is an engineer at Roberts Engineering. I'd like to have him comment on this little slide right here.
Good evening, Wesley Franks, Roberts Engineering. Like Mr. Lucas said, we've been working on his development for quite some time now. We designed the condo site. We're in phase 2 design now, which is currently reviewed, getting reviewed by the city for the hotel and the restaurant. And as Mr. Lucas pointed out, we've got some site constraints that kind of limits us what we can do here with the hotel. One being the huge oak tree to the west of the site near the ruins. And again, like Mr. Lucas pointed out, we've got the ruins to continue to the west, which is up here in this top left corner. And then we've got the existing parking lot, which is currently constructed right now for the the hotel as well as the restaurant. So we're pretty well limited on east to west. We've got parking associated with the hotel right now currently in this layout to the north. So you can see with the current design that we've got, we are very well limited with the space we're left to work with. Especially down here in this corner, right here near the IDA property. That right there is very constrictive with the line, that 10-foot access. So, yeah, with the area that we've got right now, it's fairly tight to put an economically feasible site that Mr. Lucas wants to build, and we've maximized what we can, and this is kind of where we're at this point. Let's see what else. Yeah, you have anything else you want to?
What does the orange line represent?
That's the marsh line. Is that correct, Wesley? Is that what
The orange line?
Yeah.
That's the flood line.
Flood line, okay. Yeah. There's not a lot of space down there between the end of the hotel and the river. There's a point where they're
Is not the current bike path or proposed area, isn't it all built over the river that we have? All on the IDA's property, isn't it built over the river?
Yes,
Ours is.
partially over the
And you haven't got a dock permit completed yet. Couldn't it all be drawn into the illustration to maybe just tie right in and be identical?
I'm confused with the question.
Yeah, and hold that for a few minutes. Let them finish their presentation and then we'll go through public.
Okay, I was just asking a question
No, you're
because
fine.
I didn't want to get too far along. There's so much information that somebody might, forget between the beginning and the end.
I've got a question about the slide. What does surveyed wetland on the property mean?
That, I think, maybe just mislabeled. So basically what we've got here, you've got three lines here. One is, the orange line is basically the flood line. That's from the FEMA flood maps. The top line that you see here pointed to here is the top of the bank. So that's the surveyed top of the bank that's currently out there right now. The middle line is the CMPA line, which is in our jurisdiction line. And then the third line, which is the bottom of the bank. So basically, what we've got proposed here, we're limiting our disturbance up to the top of the bank. And with this corner right here, we've only got about 6 to 8 feet between the top of the bank and the corner of the building, so which is very limiting on providing that access through that.
So the flood line represents what year flood?
Right.
Year flood.
So I believe this is all X right here on the upland side, and I think this is 89 on the river side. So basically, we're very limited right there at the top of the bank and the building corner.
How limited you were?
Are we taking?
Did you all have anything else to add?
Do I?
You go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Dawn already talked about this, about the easement, so I'm going to skip over that. This shows you the easements we have, right, it's 500 feet plus. So I think the general public has ample easement to the riverfront, right next to this property. The previous owner, the Jelly Ball owner, had a fence going across his property. There wasn't an easement there. You couldn't get through that fence. And, there was no free access to that piece of property there. It probably never had been. Nothing in the deed or title search showed an easement to the property. I wanted to show you one final slide. This is the old Jelly Ball. You really can't see this very well. I'm sorry about this. This was taken from the bridge, the old Jelly Ball factory about 4 or 5 years ago. And that's what the riverfront looked like when we took it over. And that's what it's starting to look like now. Okay.
Can I ask some questions before we can? So, if you don't mind, could you, just a couple of questions that I have. So, why do the easements not pose security concerns, but the boardwalk does?
I'm sorry?
Well, yeah, but why does, so they're all public access, right? So
I might be able to answer that a little bit. So the easements are easements that go directly down to IDA's property. It's
Right.
not, other than,
But public access to, that is right, adjoins his property. So why do, what does?
The easements go through my property going to the
Correct.
idea.
So if the easements, if the public's allowed on the easements to your property, you willingly granted, why now can we not, what's wrong with the boardwalk? What security, you listen your concerns to security?
Well, two issues. One, we don't have the room.
Okay.
Maybe if you put one out in the water, if the city wants to do that, build a, but then you sort of maybe have it, well, I don't know if you have a security issue or not if you have it out there. So there may be a way to do that, where people could be out, if it's over the water. I hadn't thought about that until somebody just brought that up.
Yeah.
But to have it come through the land, we don't have a room. And then number two, if it's, you know, we have a lot of property down there
Okay.
that you got a security issue.
Right, okay. All right. Can you just explain on the liability issue? Like,
Well, liability issue is we got a swimming pool real close to that. I mean, you got people wandering around, somebody could fall in the swimming pool. I mean, they could fall off the dock or whatever.
sorry, just wanted to get those.
Mr. Lucas is on that area. Well, I'm not gonna get into the dock, because we don't know what that's gonna look like just yet. Did y'all have any other questions for him?
You mentioned the jelly ball factory and the drawings that you said did not show an easement.
Right.
Well, you're aware that the code did not, was not in existence when the jelly ball factory was built. So this code is only for new developments. So that easement will not.
Karen informed me of that a few weeks ago. Yeah.
No, actually, had a meeting on the 20th of March in 2018. And also by correspondence, by email, on the 19th of April 2018. So, and in fact, Mr. Nix was in the meeting we had up here in this room with the architects. So this requirement has been known by your organization since 2018
I didn't know about it. I mean, unless you,
I kept the.
I didn't hear it when you were talking about it.
Well, I can tell you, I kept the meeting notes where it was discussed, and I also have the email that went to Kathy at that time in admin. So it's.
I think you remember how surprised I was when we had a conversation that.
I do, but I think you just forgot.
Okay. Well,
All right.
I would have forgotten about something like that.
Just real quick, before we open up for a couple of topics. The last time you were in front of this board, I thought you did a fantastic job. You listened to the concerns, and we'll hear what everybody has to say tonight, but you listened to the concerns and you made changes to your proposed doc that met, I think, 99% of the concerns of the folks. So, you know, obviously, I think by the attendance here, it's a river town. This is our waterfront, and I think it's an emotional issue. I get it. If there's a way, you know, to your point, I think you were talking this a second ago, a lot of the dock that goes through the IDA property is off-river. If there's a way that you could maybe allow access, because it's over the river, without taking away from the activities that you want to, you know, the second slide looks like a perfect place to do like kayaking and all the other things you want to offer, which I think is fantastic, which I think will bring all the economic impact that you were talking about that I think we all want to see. But because I think as Shulman said, the dock is over the water, if there's a way to incorporate that without allowing access to your property, but allowing the public access, I think there's a way to.
If we can do it that way,
You've always been extremely reasonable.
I'd be fine.
I would love that. I would love that. So I think maybe.
I think the city would have to decide if they want to build it, but that could be up to them.
All right, so we're gonna, I see your hand over there, give me just a few minutes. Just some preliminary issues. Whatever side you're speaking on, please be respectful. We're all adults here, we all care about this community, and we all want what's best for it. So just please be respectful. Please keep the issue at hand in your purview. I know last time we had some discussions that kind of went a little outside of the parameter of the variance requested here today, so please just keep it directed at that. And we are going to do some time limits, and I have a feeling, because most people don't come out to say, yes, I like it. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of people here in opposition, and if we see that it's becoming redundant, then we may just ask for a vote on who else is in opposition, and then go from there.
I have one quick question. Does the time limit constraint offer to Mr. Lucas and his staff being a total of 60 minutes? I think as long as there was no redundancy, that the time limit constraints on each speaker that signed up should be offered as the same, 60 minutes total.
Right, and if we have a collective amount of opposition, it looks like, there's about 18 or more people signed up, and I think even limiting them to 3 to 5 minutes per person will go a lot longer than Mr. Lucas and Ms. Dawn from IDA. But we'll go along. If anybody during the meeting feels like they are being restrained or restraining their time and unfair as opposed to Mr. Lucas, please let me know.
Just be succinct and stay on topic.
Correct. Nicholas Sonderhaus. I'm sorry, I'm really going to butcher some names.
No, you did pretty well on that one.
Thank you. Is that you?
Yes, it is.
And where do you live?
I live on St. Simon's Island, Brunswick, Georgia. I own a few businesses, board members, I do appreciate it, citizens of Darien. I'm here in support of Mr. Lucas, his project, his development. Mr. Lucas and I have, we'll say, engaged in numerous conversations relating to my business, which is very tourism related. I have a golf cart rental business and a bike rental business on St. Simon's Island. I have numerous partners with College of Coastal Georgia, as well as other hotels, including Sea Island and other boutique hotels in the King of Prince. And the reason for that is because I have a very niche. One, I have about 10 to 15 employees, depending on the time of year. So not only is me partnering with people like Mr. Lucas and his developments, it allows me to bring, we'll say, certain employment to the community as well. But I also want to say, in terms of partnering with those, is because my niche is allowing people that, one, are local, but then two, that visit our community in the Golden Isles. And I believe you guys had coined the term in Darien, that you coined that term. I'm just doing my research, right? And one of the things with that is I provide a mode of transportation for those people. Currently, right now, we're in a snowbird season. So we have people from Canada, international visitors visiting this area. Why I'm supporting him in this project is because I have an established business and success like Mr. Lucas and his business have been, and I want to keep that going. But then also, too, part of that is there is a certain amount of history from bike tours, water tours in this general area that visitors would love to see. And I've been fortunate. I get plenty, thousands of visitors into my businesses every day, wanting to see the history of what it is in St. Simon's, Sea Island, as well as Jekyll as well. So I just wanted to say I'm in support, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
What's that got to do with the variance?
I believe he was in support of, and to come back to Ms. Payne's issue, I will say that Mr. Lucas is the one requesting the variance. He has the burden here to show the things, so that's why he is also allowed, to present his variance to the board. That's
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Mark Yeager.
While he's coming up, pardon the interruption, but could you put my name on that? When I came in, there was no sign in out there.
That means you were late.
I was very early.
What's your name?
Newberry.
Newberry?
Right.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. To cut down on the amount of time I've got written out here, I think we'll skip over to page 3. But first let me say, I am not opposed to this development. However, I am concerned that the vision inherent in this Darien zoning ordinance is being placed at risk by the developer's variance request. I'm a retired architect, and I believe Darien has some of the best historic preservation and development guidelines anywhere in the state of Georgia, and they deserve protecting. Therefore, I am opposed to the way some aspects of the development are unfolding, including this variance request. I'd like to explain why. Now, I'm going to skip over to 3. Karen read the variance at item 7, subsection G. So everybody remembers verbatim, there'll be a test at the end of it. I won't reread it, but it's clearly written and self-detailed. These ordinances that he read from were adopted by the city in the year 2006. On attachment A, we have a drawing from December 2016 that shows ample space between the hotel and room. If the owner had completed his due diligence, as would be expected, then he was familiar with the Darien CHT-HD zoning ordinances for this site. And he would have known at that early date his obligations under the ordinances. A year and a half later, on August 22nd, 2018, the city sent the owner a letter, that's item B, in your attachments, stating that the zoning ordinance section G, open space requirements, are not addressed in the application letter and plans. The following features appear in recent drawings, and that's attachment C. Additional on-site parking beyond the minimum required by ordinance. The condo building was moved to the extreme northeast corner of the site. So, a more efficient utilization of the site space would provide for needed recreational activities and event spaces. The developer's design team needs to work out how. A recent photograph, attachment D, of riverfront construction suggests that the developer never intended to implement section G, item 7. The developer is now before you asking for forgiveness in the form of this variance request. It is the developer's responsibility to correct deficiencies described in the August 22nd, 2018 letter. Attachment B. The ordinance is a forward-thinking instrument meant to guide developers in such a way as the city of Darien has deemed desirable for future growth. In doing so, it has reasonably and legally extended its authority to new and future development only. Darien's planning _ zoning board may be aware of the 2009 waterfront master plan study that noted the existence of a bike path, attachment E, along the riverfront connecting to Franklin Street. This is an existing condition consistent with the intended character of Darien embedded in the zoning ordinance. Consider, for example, Savannah's River Street. The Hyatt Regency Hotel embraced not only the public access along the riverfront, but is built over and on both sides of River Street. We can safely assume that in 1980, the Hyatt Corporation was and still is, 40 years later, every bit as concerned as Mr. Lucas about security and insurance liability concerning public access along the Savannah riverfront, as they are enjoying that today, even at this moment. And Hyatt seems to be doing quite well. Mr. Lucas is clever enough to find a way to make Darien's ordinances work for Darien and for himself. It's what he signed up for 3 years ago. And in this test of wills, Mr. Lucas should fold his weak hand and get on with the meeting of the conditions of Section G, Item 7. So please resist the temptation to fix this for him, because that which is granted to one developer must be granted to all, in accordance with the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Fixing it for him will render subsection G, item 7, forever useless to Darien as a planning guide for development. In my opinion, this variance request should never have been submitted. It is not fair to you, the board, to be put in this position. But we are here faced with the unpleasant task of reminding Mr. Lucas, someone who is admired and respected, of his obligations and responsibilities.
Mr. Meager, I'm going to cut you off right there.
I'm almost finished.
And we have your almost finished in writing, and we are going to read it.
We would like to hear.
But we don't.
We would like to hear. We'd like to hear.
It's the exciting conclusion.
Does anyone? Yeah.
All right. For the public good and betterment of Darien and the whole county, I and many others ask you, please do not abandon Darien's vision of continuous public access along the riverfront. The design can be modified. It's mostly on paper at this point, and what has been built can be modified to comply. The choice is yours, the ordinance is clear, and the implications are enormous. I ask that you please choose carefully and deny this variance request. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you.
John Gibson.
I scratched my name out, I changed my mind.
Board members, ladies and gentlemen, first off, I'd like to extend condolences to the city of Darien for the recent loss of Tim Swayze. Worked with him a long time, got to know him well. My wife and I own Cathead Landing, which is down 9th Street. We've been working on it for some time now, and we think it's going to be a really good thing for Darien. I'm here in support of Mr. Lucas, and I believe you bought the property in 2017, when you found out about this in 2018. I'm just wondering, in 2017, if I had been Mr. Lucas, and I knew that I was going to have to give up this 10 feet, would we be having that condo that's there right now? That hotel is coming fairly soon, and the restaurant that's going up right now. Think for a moment of the tax value that's coming off these properties and what that's going to do to the city of Darien. Think for another moment What is costing Darien to service those properties? I don't think the restaurant, the hotel, or the condo is going to have a kid in school. It's not going to impact the school system, no. Very little impact on the police department. Very little impact on the public works. And hopefully no impact on the fire department. If I'd been Mr. Lucas, and I had that in front of me, I probably would have walked away from the project. And I see some of you shaking your heads. But I'll tell you, the man's probably got $10 million tied up in this project already. Most folks, a lot of folks, don't like progress. But the only thing that's never going to change, believe me, is the fact that you're going to have change all the time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hutchinson? Y'all, we are trying to keep it to about 3 minutes.
Hello, board members. Hello, concerned citizens. I'll be brief. We're talking about what we may lose here. I just want to tell you what we're still going to keep. There's been some questions. My influence and my control are very limited in this project. I'm limited to the restaurant I'm going to be operating. There is concern that the deck and the area right behind the restaurant, not down in the green grassy area, will now be kind of off limits to the public since it's going to be part of the restaurant. I just want to assure you that that will always be open to the public. There's a deck there that's probably 16 feet by 30 feet. I want to build a bigger deck that connects to that, so the whole back of the restaurant will be a deck where it's just broken up concrete now. But I like to have events back there. The public can use that. They don't have to eat at the restaurant to be able to use it like they have been. So that deck will always be available for the public. Going to string some white lights back there, build a tiki bar back there, and just have a nice place when you come over the Darien Bridge and you see that. It's going to look pretty cool.
Excuse me, Clay, I'm fully in support of what you're saying, but that really has no relevance to these variances that we're addressing.
Okay, I should have tied that into it. I was just tying what the public still has in the way of access to the waterfront. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clay. Johnny Underwood? Going once, going twice. Johnny Underwood. All right. Bill Ellington? See, Mr. Ellington, what did
I'm just going to stay over here. My concern, and what I saw on the drawings and everything that you're talking about now, a variance down by the waterfront. And what I thought this meeting was about was the easement for the roadway coming in down by the bandstand. And it looks like they've already torn that up, you know. And I worked, my wife and I worked several years on the steering committee for the Blessing of the Fleet. And we have bands who come in, and they've always used that access road to bring the equipment down to the bandstand. There's no way to get there now.
Yeah, Mr. Ellington,
Without,
I appreciate what you're saying very much, and that is a concern. There is access on the other side, but that's not what we're here for tonight. And there's a lot of people that want to address what we're here for tonight.
And that was on private property. That little roadway down that you were talking about, that was on private property.
And Kieran is so knowledgeable about stuff like that. I bet he will let you come meet with him and explain all of that.
Let me say, I'm in the office Monday and Friday mornings and Wednesday afternoons, and just like I said on social media, anybody who wants to come see any plans, they're public, okay? I'm more than happy to lay them out and help you read them anytime.
Thank you, Kieran. TK?
believe he gave up.
He did? Mr. Bain,
The first gentleman spoke.
okay.
Thank you. I yield back my time.
Which gentleman exactly?
The very first that addressed, Mr. Yeager, the
Okay,
architect.
thank you for,
In other words, I won't do any redundant speaking.
does anybody else have something they would like to add that has not already been said that is on this list in opposition or in support of? We've had both sides speak. It's been made clear the issues, so.
I didn't sign up on the list. My name is Gary Watson. I'd just like to speak in support of it for a minute.
We'll give you 3 specific.
Or 2 minutes, but I'm consulting with Mr. Lucas on this project, and one of the things about a revitalization of a rundown waterfront, no offense, but it was pretty rundown, is who's doing it. And I know a lot of people are in opposition to change, as we've heard before, but in getting to know Mr. Lucas like I have, and we've spent a good bit of time together, he's doing something that is just so well done, so well thought out, so well built, so expensive to do. It's just the quality of, and his integrity, and most of you probably don't know him well, but he's truly a man of integrity. He is trying to do the right thing. And by having that hotel, bringing that kind of upper end 50-room boutique hotel into this community will draw all the economic support in that has been spoken about previously. And it's just, I think you have to look beyond the ordinance. The variances are for an exception to the ordinance. That's what they're all about. If there's a valid reason to grant an exception to an ordinance, and in this case, behind that hotel and all the expense that's going to be there, he needs that private area for those hotel guests. And there's plenty of access down there now. So I just wanted to ask all of you to think about that part of what this is and who the man is himself and the work that he's done.
Thank you.
So far, this has been infomercial.
State your name for me, Mr.
My name's Jeff Long Ryan. So far, this has been an infomercial for Mr. Lucas, and that's fine. But I'd like to hear more of the other side and have a fair and balance here, not just lobbyists for Mr. Lucas.
I don't know who these people are that are raising their hand to speak. I don't know if they're for or against. I'm just asking the public.
Yeah, but I'm just dealing with the result.
Sure.
The result has been biased totally towards Mr. Lucas. That's not representative.
Anybody else? Hold up, Mr. Newberry.
Right. I think that what I'd like to say will have direct bearing on what he's doing. I've been coming to McIntosh County since 1948. I don't remember seeing it before. But I was coming here to fish and later on to eat at Archie's. But I've been paying close attention to the city. And about 4 decades ago, I moved here with my family. Now I have a son living here. He's raising his children here. So we love McIntosh County. But I've always thought that we could do better. I've always thought Darien could do better. I've noticed, and all of you noticed driving up and down Main Street, there's a lot of derelict buildings. And there are a lot of things that could be improved. Unlike a lot of small town maybeers all across the country that you've seen that put on new facades, trees on the street, Main Street, and really make it nice. Nobody's been willing to come forward and put up millions of dollars to get something like this started. And I haven't invested, I'm sorry to say, in Darien because I haven't seen any interest in something like this. But all of a sudden, when I heard about Mr. Lucas's program, I talked to him about it because my first thing was suspect. Are you coming here to make millions and millions of dollars? And I found out he's already made millions and millions of dollars. And as a matter of fact, he suspects that in his lifetime, he probably won't even see a profit. But he's wanted to do something good for this county because he was raised here, he loves it, he's bought land here, a house here, and he wants to do something that will really be nice for Darien and will be very long lasting. And as soon as I saw what he really wanted to do for the first time, I started investing here. And I have 2 other friends who have started investing here. I've bought lots, I'm building nice cottages now. We'll have our first one on the market in about 30 days.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Do you
So-
have anything specific you can add that hasn't been addressed
Yes,
as it relates to the variance?
Yes, I hope that we won't blow this. I know that nobody has ever been allowed on that strip of land anyway. There's been a fence there. So we're saying, we can't say that something's being taken away from us that we've never had. We've got plenty of room that that variance would give us. We've got plenty already anyway. And I just hope that we don't mess this up and walk out of here tonight, because if it was me, I would not do the hotel if I had to give up that land.
Thank you. Ms. Payne?
I have some other things to add. I appreciate everybody for showing up and showing the interest in the community. I appreciate you coming, Mr. Lucas. I also appreciate you for hearing all the rants, the raves, and everything going on. First of all, I would like to address that everybody understands that this is the first part. This is the first vote. The second vote that's going to come into play is going to be on Monday and Tuesday, when it's your city council members, your duly elected officials, that will make the final say on this. So let's take a look at a couple of things. So as some of the people said here, that Mr. Lucas had a well thought out plan. He knew what he was doing. He may not see in his lifetime the profit from this property. Well, Mr. Lucas also stated that he doesn't remember the variance, which I'm going to pass around to show you. And he doesn't remember stating that Mr. Kern actually said it. Well, in 2016, that variance was adopted. Okay? I mean, 2006. 2006, that variance was adopted. In 2017, you purchased the property. And you also had an operating order of that property in 2017. So I'm assuming that you have attorneys that you work with, correct? Okay, so your attorneys would have looked into the Darien city variances and the Georgia variances, is that correct?
Ordinance.
All of the ordinances, pardon my language. Is that correct?
We did a title search.
You did a title search and that was it. So spending millions of dollars on a property was just a title search. So you're from the county, right?
Originally,
Okay.
yes.
So you understand the waterfront.
Can you
I'm
just
just
address the
asking-
variance? If you want to have a cross-examination of
I just-
Mr. Lucas,
sorry.
you're certainly welcome to do
Okay.
that, but
So one of the things I wanted to point out in the variance, okay? Mr. Lucas, for his variance here, there's no date or no time on it. The other thing I wanted to point out is he stated right on his variance that he doesn't have enough land. So here's my question on a variance. If you think that you don't have enough land when you purchase this property and already have an operating model for the property, why would you continue through that operating model? It's just a question, okay? The second thing that is going out, and he says there's security and liability issues. As it was pointed out most eloquently, that I cannot express myself as eloquently as he does, it was pointed out across the state of Georgia and across the nation, there are lots of easements and public access properties that have no problems with any kind of security issues. You already have a fence up there. Okay. The codes for the variance that everybody's discussing so much right here. These are the codes for the variance. A variance has to be an extraordinary and exceptional condition. A variance has to be unnecessary hardship, and a variance would not cause substantial detriment to the public good or impairment for the purposes. Is there any extraordinary hardship on this? No. They knew that the property that they purchased, they knew the area of the property that they purchased. They also knew of the easement and the ordinance, if I say it wrong, and I apologize for that.
okay.
And that is what they were talking about for the gentleman with the interesting accent, okay, is the Darien, Georgia code. 2006, correct? Is when this came into play. The property was purchased in 2017. On this, it says new development, and I know this is redundant, I'll just do it quick. New development, parcels adjacent to the riverfront shall provide continuous public access along the riverfront. Such public access shall have a minimum width of 10 feet. All we're asking for is 10 feet. And I'll show you a picture. I drew a nice little picture, much like Mr. Karen's picture, I think we went to the same art school on this, of how we can go ahead and accomplish that, and how we already did some of the framework for this, okay? 10 feet, shall unobstructed views of the riverfront for 75% of the length of the riverfront shall connect with or provide future connection with adjacent parcel, adjacent walkway, adjacent bike path. This would give your people and your opportunity to go ahead and have that bike path. This would give you an opportunity to showcase your property and sell those properties, which you want to do to improve that waterfront. Okay? No gates can impede the public access. The third thing I would like to actually...
Okay, you have about 30 seconds.
Awesome. This is a little picture going around, just like Mr. Karen's. Okay, and this is for you guys, and I'll show you all of this.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'll give this all to you. One of the things we have to remember, okay, this is a small area, 10 feet. That is it, from going to one way or the other. If we allow a variance for undue hardship on something that somebody knew, do you realize the precedent that we will be stating for every other developer in this community? It is not just here where it stops. You have to show up on Monday. You have to show up on Tuesday. You have to go down. Instead of just going on Facebook, you have to be here for your community. Mr. Lucas is doing a great thing.
Thank
But
you,
that 10
thank
feet.
you.
It's Dr. Thank you. But that 10
I'm sorry,
feet.
Dr. Payne. I'm sorry, she wasn't signed up as doctor. If she had signed Dr. Payne, I would have certainly.
Okay, that's okay. Those 10 feet. This is your job to stand up for your community. We can work together with Mr. Lucas. I'll show you my picture.
Ms. Shepherd, I'm on the list, and I originally decided I wasn't going to speak.
If you could please be quiet.
Let's keep it down, y'all.
Before we're trying to speak, thank you.
I've been working with Dr. Payne very closely. Is there any way that I could get her to finish my time in regards to what she was speaking
Well,
on?
we gave her double time, so
Is that a no?
did you have more to add? I thought you went through your 3.
She looked at me going, oh dear God.
I just have a question.
Sure.
I won't take
2 minutes.
And I'll make it a quick question. And that was that we've kind of been following this project, this community all the way along. And I never, when Mr. Lucas made the changes that the community asked for, and he made all these changes, I've never heard about this 10-foot walkway all along in front of here. And I'm just wondering why, in all these other meetings, this was never addressed.
You know what, that's a very good point, and I will say, this is something that I wanted to address, Mr. Lucas, going forward. You still have the hotel project,
And may I make sure that you understand, when he made the changes, and I'm saying this that the city never mentioned the 10-foot walkway.
Well,
I'd like to answer
In the meetings.
I'd like to answer that.
Okay, in the meetings.
There was a meeting on the 20th of March of 2018, okay? And I kept my notes. And Mr. Nix was in the meeting with me, and it was in this room. And I went down a list of about 16 different things that were requirements under the city ordinance. And one of those items was Appendix C, Section G, Paragraph 7. Then on the 19th of April of 2018, I sent them an email reiterating all the things we had talked about in the meeting, including the requirement for the 10-foot walkway.
Was this at the public meetings? I'm sorry.
No, those were not in public meetings.
Yeah, because I
Okay?
attended the public meeting.
Phase two of the site plan for that development has never been approved by the city. And they were informed a couple months ago that it had not been approved because of one of the reasons being that the site plan did not address the 10-foot walkway. So they've been adequately informed of what the requirement was. And those other public meetings were about specific variances, the dock, the height of the condominium, and the condominium project had no impact on the walkway because the condo is only this piece of land here and is not down at the river. The hotel comes down to the river, not the condominiums.
So does it come more in play because of all the changes?
It comes in play,
It
it comes in play because the hotel property abuts the river.
Dr. Payne? And I apologize for not referring to you as doctor.
We're all in this together.
I work hard for my doctors too.
Here's a couple for you. So that was a great question. So this variance has always been, this code has always been there for the 10 feet. So the reason it wasn't heard until now is because now they're asking for an exception, undue hardship. Because they want this extra 10 feet to go built out on the hotel. Yet remember, 2006, this 10 foot was in existence for being part of the city codes. Okay, so that has always existed. So they knew when they purchased the property, how much land they had, that this was in existence. And to be quite honest with you, if we have a walkway or a bike path in front of the condominiums in the hotels, just like Jekyll Island has, that's not going to offer any security risk. That's going to increase tourism, so the people that come to Darien can enjoy that riverfront, can walk, can ride their bike. They can see Mr. Lucas's condominiums and possibly even want to purchase them. This sets a dangerous precedent. Please go on Monday or Tuesday.
Thank you, Dr. Payne.
Thank you very much, you guys.
Does anybody have anything that has not already been said? There is opposition that is clear, there is support that is clear. We have addressed the requirements of the variance request. I do want...
I do. I have a question.
Sure.
I think Mr. Lucas explained what the hardship was when he said he needed to increase the rooms to make it economically viable. So that is a hardship. It was not economically viable.
Thank you. You already got yours.
I just have a question.
Okay.
It wasn't in the deed.
Doesn't have to be in deed, it's not.
Okay, all right. But it's an ordinance.
Correct.
I'm not a lawyer, but that is classified as a taking. I think you've got Fourth Amendment issues.
I'm not giving legal advice. Ms. Way?
Mine is short and sweet. I'm a retired school teacher. I came here 25 years ago for the children of McIntosh County. Number one, here's my thing. Where's the archaeological study that was supposed to have been done prior to this?
Here.
Where is that at? I've got it right here where it was mandated, all of it, paperwork from Atlanta, from the Historical Commission. Number two, think about that. If Mr. Lucas is here to invest in this community, why aren't we investing in our children? I have been begging this community for 25 years to put a swimming pool in for the kids of McIntosh County. I know it has nothing to do with their variance, and I don't care. I'm old. But I am passionate about our kids. I'm done.
Anything that has not already been. Sure.
It'll be less than 3 minutes, and I'm addressing about the kids. This gentleman, I'm addressing you.
Can you state your name, please?
Ed Perry. My name's Ed Perry. I come from a community the same size of Darien and a county about the same size of McIntosh. I'm involved in agritourism. The reason I'm in Darien, I'm embracing the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Development Authority, to bring prosperity, to bring economic growth here. That's what commerce is. Now, Jimmy Carter once said at his inauguration, which is very important, we have got to cling to these principles that we know are good for the community and good for us. But we have got to embrace change. And that's what we're talking about here, is embracing change. My community did a good job at teaching our children good principles, honesty.
Mr. Perry, does that directly relate to the...
It does. I'm making the point. It directly relates to the children.
No, that's not the variance request. Nothing to do with the variance request. The 10-foot public
But
access.
embracing the change. We did not embrace change. If we embrace this, we will be embracing change. Our community did not do that. I am the 4th generation. My children are not coming back to my town. They're not coming back.
You're still on the children. What do you have?
You're not going to speak to what they're asking you to, just go ahead and have a seat, okay? You keep bringing
The
that
10-foot
up.
public access. I
Okay?
shut this way down for it.
Listen, just go ahead.
And I taught her in school and she shut me down.
Just go ahead.
And she was a great teacher to me.
Well, we're in this together and we need to support this change.
One comment. In Darien, we
I'm gonna shut down public speaking in a minute if we're just going to go back and forth.
I'm sure that's one thing that unless I missed it, I haven't had anybody ask about it. You know,
I wasn't referring to you. I'm not doing outside arguments.
that 10-foot access, have y'all, I mean, I haven't had anybody address to what it gets to. That 10-foot access, and I'm not trying to sell out the shrimp boat by no means, but you got Boone's Dock, which is, well, the first dock you got, I think is Thompson's Dock.
It's Thompson and
That's 1 acre. Then you got 3 acres is Boone's Dock. Then you got another 2 acres on the water. It's 1.2 acres is Boone's Dock. I'm not trying to say they need to sell or they even want to sell, but if y'all are